Hello everyone and welcome back to Talking Points with KPI, episode number 71. Today we have Chase and Dan, and we are going to talk about a very big topic, is the reason why this place was a thing, incorporating data into athletics and how to not make it a burden. So just to start off, the data-led approach that we have here to teach development, challenging, but it's 100% the correct way to teach player development in general. I want you to go on how your basis idea of this place was kind of to do that incorporation, and then we'll kind of go down the line of how it should be done.
Yeah, totally. Data, I feel like it's like everyone thinks just numbers, like the matrix, you see all these numbers on the screen. Data is just information. We've been using data, coaches have been using data since the beginning of time. When a player says, hey, my changeup feels good today, and I want to throw it, that's a data point that you say, well, let's see. Or guys, I feel like I crush the pull side pitch way better than the outside. I want to work on hitting the outside pitch, and then you go look at their stats, and all of their hits are to the pull side, and then we've been using data since the beginning of time. There was a tweet today, the rise of arm injuries because pitchers are using technology to force them to throw pitches that are hurting their arms. It's like,
Jeez.
Arms have been getting hurt at the start of the
Forever.
season since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
And the data-driven approach, data-led approach, has been used for the last 10, 15 years. So this is not anything that's new. I think the big thing is, especially at the youth levels, is a lot of development is based off opinions. My opinion of your swing, my opinion of your throwing mechanics, what I think is going to help you get better. Let's try this. Oh, it looks good. My eyes say, yeah, that's dialed. Let's get after it. And then you go to games and you fall back to old habits.
Well, it's like that same guy that thinks he has the IDAR. It's like, that was 82.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you really know that?
Yes,
It's
exactly.
too much. Too much.
I think the reason that I feel it should be objective data, meaning we can measure it using some piece of technology that then gives us an idea of where you rank relative to the population that you are in. I think that is what the athletes are owed.
Yes.
Your batting average, your ERA, your wins and losses. We've been looking at some high school stats recently, and those numbers do not reflect the quality of the players that are on the field because they're completely subjective, right? You can go and hit 700 and you suck. But you're hitting 700 against a bunch of kids that suck, right? And you can be a pitcher who is 1-12. We have a pitcher who's her win and loss record does not reflect how good of a season she's having, and it's just because the team offensively isn't scoring a ton of runs. And you look at their schedule, you look at all this information. Data needs to be a part, and it needs to lead and affirm the player development model because it gives you more insights to where am I at. How do I rank relative to other athletes? And then what am I doing to improve those things? Still, at the end of the day, data-driven and all these things, it does not guarantee that you're going to be successful because there are things within sports that we cannot quantify yet.
Yes.
The mental side, I think, is really
Huge.
there is no way to quantify somebody, their mentality. You can,
You can see that kind of.
And good coaches and good scouts, they can see that. Oh, that guy's got it. You can tell. You won't ever be able to truly quantify it. And that's what makes sports enjoyable. But the data-driven, data-led, I think is really, really important, and athletes are owed that.
Yeah. So switching from the athlete's point of view, we'll come back to it just to kind of talk about how we make it easy for them and give them competition with this data. But the coaches need to be able to understand well enough to be able to teach what these kids are looking at. So going in, and Chase, you can chime in on this too, how do you guys feel that you have prepared a staff that is not burdened by data, but is more interested in making it better for their systems?
It's really the legwork that was done beforehand to understand what to pay attention to and what not. And I think there is homework as a coach that needs to be done in order to understand what you're looking at, right? And I think that's where a lot of coaches that don't use tech kind of get scared of that because it can be daunting at first if you don't know what you're looking at.
It's very
and so
broad, yeah.
in regards
we
to
use that word a lot, granular, but you want to try to make it
yeah.
Using it a lot is
This is true.
Yeah. But it's really about here are the things that we want to pay attention to because we've done enough either research or data. We've gotten data in the facility to know that these are the things that matter most. And the good news is now that tech is being more involved at all levels of baseball. We kind of have a roadmap on what we want to look at and what we want to see. And then all that being said too, as a coach, it allows you to understand what is working and what is not. It's honestly like as I got introduced more into tech when I was an early coach, it was a godsend because you could actually see what was working and what wasn't instead of just subjectively trying to see. Absolutely. The swing happens too fast. It's impossible, right? So being able to actually have something to hold you accountable, hold the players accountable is, it still shocks me that it's not rampant everywhere, that there's still people that are against it because it's really just telling you what you want.
True.
It's like,
or at some points it's telling you what you need to hear.
Yeah.
I think that's more of the side that you get to deal with is giving these athletes like, hey, these are your numbers. I know you think this is where you're at, but I see you here, and this is what the data's giving you.
Yeah, I think that there's a percentage of the population that doesn't like technology, that doesn't like data because it tells you what you don't like.
Yes.
I don't like stepping on the scale because it tells me a number that I don't like.
Yeah. So the scales are BS.
Terrible. Right? So
that's a good analogy.
People don't like the radar gun because it tells them the number they don't like. I'd rather say, I had 10 Ks. Like, pitching against 62 was completely blind. Like, your umpire was calling pitches this far off the dish, and nobody is swinging, saying like that's not a strike. Like great for your 12 strikeouts, but they like. Yeah. So I think the lens that this started. Again, I was a baseball player first, strength coach second. Is on the strength side, you were a strength coach. You had the same background as me.
Yeah.
I feel like the strength coach inherently is bought into data. We talk about rep schemes, we talk about weight and load that's being lifted, we talk about percentages of RMs. We have all these numbers that are telling us what these athletes need to improve on, and we're going to test them. We're going to do vert, and we're going to do speed. And we have all this like that entire system has been used on the strength and conditioning side, and now we're applying it to the baseball side. So again, this is not outlandish. This is super crazy. I think that the gap that's created is coaches that are afraid of the numbers. You have some like, oh, just trust the process. I talk about my brand of hating that saying. I'd be like going to an orthopedic surgeon and say, hey, my arm hurts, and they're like, you got to turn UCL. Let's go do surgery. They're like, oh, sounds good. Let's do it. Take my $60,000. No, you're going to go through all of the steps. You're going to use all of the technology that is going to help you determine if this is actually my problem, right? So I think that there's a percentage of coaches that fall in there. I think there's a percentage of coaches that are afraid of being wrong. Like this is that ego driven which we're talking about all the time. I don't like technology because if it shows that I'm wrong in front of my athletes, that depreciates my value. It reduces my credibility. And I think I literally had a conversation today with two more coaches. Like, one of the most powerful things you can tell an athlete is say, I don't know. That's genuine. Like, kids can tell and they sniff through the BS very quickly, right? So I think that's the typical. And what ends up happening is coaches fall into this middle ground. I think this is going to be a good transition. Coaches fall into this middle ground where I purchase this blast, I purchase a Rapsodo, I purchase a radar gun. It comes out every once in a while, and it's like, hey, I got it, and then it sits on the shelf. And a long time ago, one of the coaches that was in the facility who fell into this bucket, one of the parents was like, man, that's a really expensive paperweight. It's like $4,000 paperweight just sitting over there collecting dust. And it very quickly became a principle for us creating KPIs. Like, we're going to have techniques building its used every single day.
Well, and even to that point, I'm just thinking about this a little bit. Like, even to the point of using it, there is facilities that use it, but they use it at a very base level. They use it. Right. This is what the app does. That's all I'm going to do with the app. You guys have gone as far to, this is what the app does, but we're going to make it do this for our systems, which is a completely different add-on.
It's the hard part with when it comes to tech, and this is where it doubles down on the work, because once you get it, once you do the homework to understand it, then all of a sudden now the work forever is now, it's just a little bit more because I want to get, and that's the hard part about baseball, I need to get a lot of data for me to understand what's working and what's not and be able to see all that stuff, right? And so that's really where it gets into the weeds a little bit, is we need to be able to get data for a long amount of time,
I think that the part that always happens when the history is written by the victors, we used to do blast motion off of a tee into a radar gun where kids were just crushing tee work, and bat speed's all that matters, which still bat speed is extremely important, but the way that we were developing it, Like now I look back and I'm like, God, that was really dumb. But you could say, oh, that's so stupid. Why would you ever do that? I'm not gonna try, and you're not gonna get anywhere.
Yeah.
So at the very least, it's like the encouragement I give the coaches is like, start small and simple and just use it. Like make it a part of your daily routine. So it's like the biggest obstacle and the one thing that most people stop using technology is like, oh, it doesn't turn on, it doesn't connect, it disconnects, it does this. Like, yes, all those things are going to happen. There shouldn't be a reason.
Technology is
there shouldn't be a reason to stop you from
Yeah.
using it. And it becomes a consistent issue, like a certain piece of technology that we don't use very much anymore. Then we do that. Like, but at the same time, I think like that's the easy out. That's the easy excuse. So this I'd rather just do BP and flips and T-work and ground balls.
This has always been done.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's how it's always been done. And it's like this whole email thing. I'd rather just write a letter. I don't want to send an email. Like we can give millions and millions of examples of just like things that even I'm on the edge of this. Like cell phones and smartphones, like that started right when I was in middle school going into high school, and now it's like I can't even live without the damn thing.
Yep.
So it's like technology is driving everything we do, and it makes all of our lives easier.
Yep.
You just have to get past this phase of easily just it doesn't turn on, it doesn't work.
I've always wondered what that is. It's like it's not a willingness to try, because they try other things. It's a willingness not to want to learn.
No, I honestly, it has nothing to do with that. I really think it's like an evolutionary and such. Like we are used to doing things a certain way, and I will do it that way.
Routine based, right? Like
because it takes energy to then change the routine
and have to think about
and move the status quo to somewhere else. So I don't want to expend that energy.
Yeah.
I'd rather just stay in the easy cruise control lane and not push myself to get there. Because again, we want to conserve energy, especially brain power trends. That's why they talk about like time saving techniques and all that. Is map out your day, plan it all out. So you're not saying, oh man, what am I supposed to do today? Oh, there's so many things. I'm overwhelmed. I do nothing. So I don't think it has. I think at the base level it starts with that. It's just it takes energy to do these things, and then you're like, it's not worth it. I'm just gonna do the easy way.
Yeah.
We fought that for a while. Remember, like coaches, we had coaches come in and they would just start going back to us like, oh, we're just gonna do flips. Like machine doesn't turn on, I don't want to deal with it. I want to lock it in. I'm just gonna fix it. Yeah. Right? Like, the iPads aren't charged, so we'll just go back to throwing bullpens without our reps over there trying to no, that's not how things work here. We will change the systems to make it so that it's easier for us.
It's easier for you to do it. And on that note too, I was just thinking about like being able to make sure that we have everything set up and ready to go, so then that hurdle doesn't happen no matter when we have parents or athletes. But also you're taking something away from kids when you're not using tech, because they're going to see all this stuff anyways. And so realistically as a coach, like we need to be dynamic and being able to move and change the way that you do the way that's always been done, because kids are going to see all this anyways. You're going to play right into what they grow up having. And
nowadays, if you think that a kid that is coming into your facility doesn't want to virtually see something that can help them, you're delusional. It just doesn't. Nowadays, kids that's what they thrive for, is just the quick internet, seeing things on a screen that they can play with. And if you look at our social medias, we do a great job of making sure that these kids get an opportunity to see the competition within their data, so they can strive to beat their peers. And I don't see how that could be a default at all. But so switching from the coach's side, we've got integration and all that stuff into the systems. I want to talk more about the athlete side of things. How have you seen, and we talked about a little bit gamifying, right, and making them kind of like it more that way. But how have you seen them more dive into the knowledge of what the data actually means?
This principle started the gamification and the term I used at the very, very start. Literally, my initial business plan was sugar makes the medicine go down. People don't like doing the hard work.
That's true.
But they like it when it's fun. Right? Like people who don't like to work out and lose weight, well, like let's make it a challenge. A 21-day challenge. The gamification that what sold it for me was when Fortnite came out. Kids would wake up at 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning to play 2 hours of Fortnite before school because it was so addictive. Yeah. And so it has nothing to do with motivation, it has nothing to do with work ethic, it has nothing to do with some of the, kids these days, they just are all lazy. No, it has everything to do with understanding what motivates them and then creating an environment that they are incentivized to do the things we want them to do.
Yes.
And then getting in front of their face, whether it's leaderboards or big screens, like whatever it is, that all started with the mentality of like working out. Like I was not a skill coach, I was a strength coach. And working out, the kids didn't want to do it because it's just not fun. So you had to find a way to make medicine go down. So I would do, and it started with just doing throwing drills. Like, oh, we'll work on your arm carrying, your throwing mechanics. That's what you're going to do. I'm not doing bullpens with you because I'm not a pitching coach. But we'll do arm carrying, throwing drills because I understand that I can build up those routines. That's where a lot of that started.
That makes it easier for kids to buy in too.
Yeah,
it makes it inherent. I mean, it's the same thing of trying to find out what motivates them and all these, like it makes it easier for them to buy into a program when they can see their progress immediately, because that's what happens at every other aspect of their life.
It goes back to the Fortnite piece. The part I think that we have made a good shift is, and I was aware of this because of other facilities I've been in. Like every single facility like us, you're going to run the risk of creating, I call them cage monsters. Wonderful in practice. You are great in the cage. Oh man, you can compete. And you go out to games, and we've had kids like this. They don't have it. And so leveraging partnerships with high schools and travel ball teams to make sure what happens in here actually translates to the field, I think is a huge competitive advantage that we have. On top of the fact, we were very, very lucky with the way that our business was created at the very start. Eric went all in on tech. I remember Blast was purchased, and at that point in time, this is kind of learning some hard lessons, right? Blast was purchased. Every single kid got a Blast sensor. They had no clue where their Blast sensors were. They had no clue how to charge them. And we're like, okay, we're not doing that again. But HitTrax came along, Rapsodo came along. There's numerous other pieces of tech that we tried and did not work and was not usable. But I think the part that I do want to communicate is we are so far past just getting new pieces of tech and saying, oh, look, we have this. Like, we are now targeting pieces of technology to round out the developments that we have in this building to fill in the gaps. And because we do know how it connects. We know enough to say, like, hey, this is strongly going to help our athletes get better. But we're continuously, we're well past, like, oh, come throw a bullpen on Rapsodo, like that. We have Rapsodos now, like we're well past that stage.
And so just kind of wrapping it up, I want you guys to talk about the future of where we want to go with this. And that can be anything from integrating it into every system we have, which we've already kind of done. And it can be anything along those lines, but just trying to get a way to where everybody is more comfortable in the world of data. How do you think we'll be able to get there?
For the athletes or the coaches?
Either one.
I think for the athletes, I've been saying this more, we know our systems work.
Yeah.
The limiting factor, and I specifically, and we're all kind of going all in on, is how can we make sure they're doing it, and how can we make sure they're doing it more often? We found the sweet spot twice a week training with us, you're going to get better. But we've always given 7 days of programming to every single athlete. How can we increase the chances of them doing that? How can we make sure that they're doing all the little stuff? It's fun to hit the cage and throw bullpens. How can we make sure they're doing their mobility and their flexibility and all that stuff? We started with educating all of our coaches on that. So when a coach is like, oh, you just need to work on your swing more, it's like, no. Like, you need to understand your body better and why that's being limited. And I can't help you until you take care of that in the weight room. You got to really buy into that. So I think that's for the players. I think for coaches, it'll make your life easier.
Yeah, I don't understand why they even want to.
Like,
I actually,
point?
To an extent, I feel like we are losing out on a good amount of experience that can help in addition to development because they're scared of seeing tech. You know what I mean? Like
That's the thing. I feel like the correlation here is 1-to-1. Like every piece of data we get is a live swing that we get experience on. So yes, are we paying more attention to the data because it gives us an objective reason on why these things are happening? Absolutely, but it doesn't take away from Dan seeing that, okay, that kid's left knee goes down. Like it's not going to get that objective in a data scheme. He can see that personally. So just to be able to have that balance of like really high level, and we've talked about it all the time, certified coaches with the understanding of data is like a match made in heaven, I think.
Absolutely.
I think the one thing for the coach is the part that you will be remembered for is the relationship you have with the athlete.
Yes.
They're not going to remember the drills. I don't remember any drills. I remember the stuff I hated. I hated doing push-ups when I was like 12.
Yeah.
I sucked at them. I hated we would do lunges, walking around the bases. It was like
God.
I was like 10 years old and I thought it was just awful. I'm like, now it's like, oh God,
Lunges?
Like just stuff like that. I remember that because it was super naked, right? You remember getting punished.
Yeah.
Team suffering is what they call it.
Yes.
That's horrible.
But I think that the data-driven tech approach, utilizing systems and doing this is going to free you up to do the part that matters the most is the most fun. Like you can connect with kids more and talk to them more because they already know their drills. Yep. They already know their numbers. They already know where they're at. So I don't have to take time to talk about that stuff. I can talk about, hey, how was your weekend? How did the game go? What were you feeling?
That's a great point. It allows you to just spend more time getting to know the individual, which actually then helps you on the flip side anyways as a hitting coach and a pitching coach, because they know when they come into the cages that they have their intent, they have their goal, they know what they're doing, and we have all that shown in front of them. So I can spend more time getting to know the individual.
Well, and especially in a game like this, like they can come to you at a time where it's not going so well. Like they know they can do that. Like I feel like that's the hardest part with, like we talk about the lesson model and just kind of the I'm right, you're wrong kind of thing. That kid's not going to go to you if he doesn't get it. He's just going to agree and he's going to move on. Like it's just there's no getting better for him.
Yeah, I think that's the more like the nicer, more kind of empathetic stance. I think the one stance I would say to coaches is the numbers aren't on our side.
No.
It's literally why we created this.
Choose a side.
And this is why the first time that we were truly said, like, this is the percentage of players who are making it to each level.
Yeah.
So we know that an overwhelming number of players are failing. They're getting hurt, they're not reaching their full potential, they are failing to achieve their goals. An overwhelming number of them. Mm-hmm. And it could be because an overwhelming number of them aren't doing the work that we asked them to do. But then you must be very, very sure of the programming and the training you're giving actually works. Mm-hmm. And the way you do that is you verify it through objective data, not game numbers. Game numbers is the cherry on top.
Yes.
Right? We improve somebody's bat speed, their attacking, we improve their throwing velocity, all those things, and they go on and dominate. Like that's the cherry on top. Because it still is no guarantee.
Yeah.
And that's the thing we talk about. You talk about when you come to your assessments all the time. There's no guaranteed success. None.
No.
At all.
Other than that, I don't want to keep ranting all days. Like an example I used for a while is like, hey, like COVID could come along.
Yeah.
And your career's just
done.
Going to the wayside.
That happened to a lot of kids.
World
like,
is stopped. Yeah.
Jason Alexander, like, he's a good example. His entire career, and he probably now looks back and like, man, like that was a path that I had to go down. I've along the way.
He's a good testament of sticking to the system and making sure that is how.
It's just there's things that you don't have any control over that can completely derail your career. And so at any point in time, like relying on the subjectiveness of like how good I'm playing is not the best way to drive your developments for sure. Because it can one day you can be the greatest player on the planet, and the next day you're like, I don't even know how to play baseball.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. Same with my golf swing. Any final word? Any final thoughts? Don't be scared of data. It will help you. I promise.
No, it's again, you're already collecting it.
Yeah, you are.
You're already doing it.
Yes.
You're already doing it. Like baseball stats, that's data.
Yeah.
Like you're already collecting it. You just you need to be more efficient in what you're like. You need to be efficient in what you're collecting, so then you can look at and see what actually matters of what you're collecting. And then once you look at, hey, bat speed matters, or easy deal matters, throwing deal matters, command matters. Then you measure it in the training you're doing to make sure, because whatever measure gets managed, like if you're not. Once you know what you need to go after, then you design stuff to improve that, to see if the kids are getting closer or further away.
It's good.
All right, then, guys, thank you very much for listening. Once again, KPI is going to continue along this technology-driven path. Please be able to follow us and come with us. If you feel like you have struck a chord with this podcast, please visit kpimh.com and please sign up for an assessment today. If you like Dan's shirt and understand the meaning of it, please visit kpistore.net and go buy yourselves a shirt today. And then any other stuff like that, please follow us on social media at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then follow us on YouTube at Kinetic Performance Institute. Thank you guys very much for listening. Have a great day. Nice!
I had an idea.
Yes.